Good morning, art friends. Today we're going to be watercoloring our fancy sun from the other day. I wanted to show you guys the types of brushes and the watercolor tray I was using before we get started. So I am using a dual watercolor tray. You can just have one of the single ones, and everything that I'm going to talk about still applies. Please make sure that you're picking the right size brush. So if you're painting in a bigger area, make sure you're using a bigger brush with more bristles. If you're painting in a smaller area, you don't want to paint in with the big brush. This is going to make it more possible that you go outside of your lines. So ideally with watercolor, we want to stay inside of them. That way our colors aren't mixing. So I'm going to use a smaller brush for my smaller areas. So I don't know if you guys knew this, but the clear tray on a watercolor tray, it's actually for mixing colors. Now, although I have a lot of colors, tertiary and secondary colors in here, I'm still going to stick to my 3 warm colors right here and mix them over on my tray. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start by first waking up my colors. So I dip my paintbrush in the water. I teach the kids to scrape on the side to get extra water off. Another way to do it is taking your fingers and pinching most of that water off. That works a lot better with little kids. So I'm going to wake up my colors. Good morning, yellow. Clean my paintbrush off, otherwise you contaminate the color. Good morning, orange. Clean it off, and I'm making sure I'm scraping it on the side. And good morning, red. So you want to make sure you're cleaning your paintbrush off every time, because once you get a color on there, if you're to touch the another color, it's going to mix right there, and that'll contaminate your colors. And it's easy to clean, but it's just easier to clean your brush first and then mix over on the tray here. Okay, so I'm going to start just with yellow, and in painting my sun, I'm going to make sure I can see the color on my brush. Alright. To make your colors darker versus lighter, the less water you use, so the more color, the more vibrant that color is going to be. So as you guys can see, I'm just painting straight from the tray that I woke up. And I'm making sure I'm not giving my paintbrush a bad hair day. I see this a lot. Push really, really hard, and they brush back and forth to make sure they're getting color on there. I just remind them to get more color on their brush. So if I were to use more water than I was the color, I'll show you guys so you can see how dark that is. Just gonna get a little bit of color here. It's a lot lighter. A little more. It's a lot lighter if you have more water on your brush. So if I just scrape a little more of that water off and get that color, it's going to be much darker. And that's a really fun activity to teach the kids too, lighter and darker in watercolor, because a lot of kids will ask you for gray, and they'll realize that the water is pretty much their white, and so when they mix that color with water, it's going to be a lighter version of that color. Okay, so now that I painted my main part of my sun yellow, I'm going to darken the color a little bit. So I'm going to take some of this yellow, put it over here on the mixing tray, clean my brush off because I'm going to pick a different color. I'm going to get just a little bit of that orange, and so I'm not getting my whole brush. I'm just going to tilt my brush to the side here and get a little bit of orange. Orange is much stronger than yellow because it has red in it, so it makes it a lot stronger than yellow. So if I put too much orange in there, it's going to overpower the yellow. All right, so I made some light yellow orange, and I'm going to paint my rays over here with that. You guys will see as I start to mix more and more orange, it's going to get darker and darker. So right now we have a yellow orange because it's still a little lighter than just a normal orange. And this is a round tip brush that I'm using, and you can tell that it's round tip because it's literally round at the top. There's lots of different brushes. You guys can use fine tips, which are pointier, square head, which, go figure, looks like a square. But all of them work the same as long as you're picking a brush that is appropriately sized for the area that you're painting in. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little more orange to that yellow orange to paint that outer layer there. So I'm going to grab some orange first, clean off my brush. it's really important that the kids know not to tap their brushes, because then you're going to get water everywhere. Just a little bit of that or yellow. Make sure that color is on my brush. Now, if it doesn't look darker, which this is kind of looking the same, I'm just going to add a little more orange. And then I'll make it darker. The great part about watercolors, once this dries, you can actually go back and add more of the lighter color or the darker color on top of already painted areas. This is watercolor, guys, so if it gets on the table or gets on clothes, this does wash out. I tend to make kids wear smocks either way, just because it still can get a little messy. I'm going to paint that inner line a darker color, make a little more. It's getting lighter down there. Okay, so this next part I'm going to be just using plain orange. And this just gives your sun, when you have different values of colors, it just gives your sun more strength versus it just being one color. It lacks depth. So when we do multiple colors or variations of a color, it's going to make it look a lot more deeper. Okay, so now I'm going to get some of that orange, put it on my mixing tray, get a little bit of red. My red's already woken up, so I don't need much water to wake it up. Now, red is a very powerful color, so please make sure you're not using too much of it because it will overpower that orange. So you can start to see my oranges are changing. I recommend using colors, primary colors, to help darken a secondary or a tertiary color instead of black. Black makes it turn into this mucky kind of brown color, which if you're wanting neutral colors, that's a great way to get that color. But to make colors more vibrant or darker, I recommend using one of the primary colors. Okay, so now I'm going to finish off with some red out there in those other areas. And this is going to be really dark because you're going to see I'm not using any mixing or anything like that, so it's just the red, so it's pretty dark. Okay, and then to make my red a little darker, I just like to use a little bit of purple. Gives it a warmer or a cooler color, excuse me. Remember, you can always use less water and it makes it lighter too. Alright, so I never really want to leave my paintbrushes in there. I always spin the water off of it because it can separate the bristles from the metal. Get all that water off of there. I'm going to do my smaller areas. And I'm just going to do these blue because I think that'd be really pretty. Like the sky, the sun, the sky. Alright, with my smaller brush, I'm going inside there. Some blue lips, why not? Light blue lips. Got a little bit of water on there. And I want that emerald on his forehead to be green. I think they're like a turquoise. That'd be pretty. And all turquoises is a blue-green, but looks like I need to go back and add a little more green in there. So you guys can also mix on the paper. It doesn't have to be on the tray. Mixing on the paper is just fine too. Alrighty guys, that's how you watercolor in your sun. Hope you have a great day. I miss you. Bye.